Hello there, people of the internet. So the other day I made a poll and I asked people about a hypothetical situation where they had a modern gun in the trenches of World War I, and people responded with answers that I was not expecting. One of the answers that I got was a lot of people were saying that they were going to take the AK-47 because of ammunition availability. And I was like, what? I'm sorry, what? Ammunition availability? What are you talking about? They're like, yeah, the AK for ammo availability. And I kind of scratched my head and I'm like, we're talking about the trenches of World War I, and you're taking the AK for ammunition availability. Apparently there's a lot of people out there, like more than one person in that list of comments, who seem to think that 7.62x39 existed in World War I. So, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and talk about the history of 7.62x39, where it came from, why it was developed, and the platforms that it was used in. So, actually, I guess while I talk, I'll go ahead and load up this magazine here. 7.62x39 came about technically during the Second World War, but actually after the Second World War. During the Second World War, countries were beginning to see that their full-power rifle ammunition was too large, too bulky, too cumbersome, too heavy, and dramatically too powerful for the amount of, well, not the amount, for the types of fighting that was taking place. For the most part, during the Second World War, countries were fighting well within 300 yards of each other. And as a result, having this full-power bolt-action rifle that is designed to be able to touch out to 2,000 yards, it was just completely unnecessary. So countries were looking into having an intermediate cartridge of some sort. Germany did this very, very well with the Sturmgewehr. Russia tried doing it, started in development, but things never really picked up for the intermediate cartridge concept until after the Second World War. After the Second World War, the Russians were really looking into this idea of intermediate cartridges out of a semi-automatic platform, and they were looking to create something similar to the STG-44 that had an external box magazine that fed in from the bottom. There were some issues with the AK-47 whenever it had first come out. They were trying to get it to be stamped, but they had quality control issues, so they ended up going to a milled rifle. Still didn't really work out for them. They had about a decade of testing and whatnot, and during that decade, they ended up adopting the SKS platform in 7.62x39, the same intermediate cartridge that the AK-47 was going to be chambered in, but the SKS kind of served as a fill-in-the-blank from the old-school Mosin-Nagant rifles, the old-school bolt-action full-power 7.62x54 rimmed rifles, to your newer era of technology. So it was after the Second World War, technically during, but never saw any significant use. As a matter of fact, I don't think I saw any use during World War II. Maybe at the extreme end of it, maybe there was some situation that isn't documented or that we don't know about. I mean, it's a world war. There's a lot of things that happened. But for the most part, 7.62x39 came about after the Second World War, and definitely not during the First. If you run around in the trenches of World War I with an AK-47, you're not going to find 7.62x39 lying around. The amount of people, like, there were more than one person, several people, more than several people, who thought that they could find 7.62x39 in the trenches of World War I. World War I was fought with full-length, like, bolt-action rifles, like this right here. This is my Turkish Mauser. This one's been sporterized. I was just out here testing this thing earlier. But hey, I got a couple of rounds here, and I got this sporterized rifle. These are full-power 8mm Mauser rounds out of an incredibly long rifle. Way too much power for these cartridges, and way too much length of the rifle. Not enough ammunition, not enough rate of fire with these firearms for the types of fighting that were taking place, not only in the First World War, but especially in the Second World War, where urban combat really became a thing. So, oh my god, that really is a full power rifle cartridge. This is Turkish ammo, 155 grain projectile, traveling at about 3,000-ish feet per second. A very, very powerful round. Oh boy, and boy does that show out of this rifle. That is a whole heaping helping of recoil. But countries are running around with these full power rifle rounds and these full length rifles. And of course, during the Second World War, pretty much immediately after, they were seeing that you could use shorter length rifles, but they were still rocking these bolt-action full-power rifles. And it was just not ideal for infantry use. So eventually, everybody moved on to intermediate cartridges, and Russia moved on to the 7.62x39. And then all of these other comm-block countries that were around the area tried either adopting their own cartridge or adopting 7.62x39. Ultimately, they pretty much all went to 7.62x39. There's a 7.62x45 and a 7x41. And a bunch of other like cartridges out there that never really came about to being anything. But 7.62x39 came about after World War II and was not in the trenches of World War I. And it came to be into existence. It was designed during, well, with the ideas of what they were seeing in World War II, designed to be capable out to about 400 yards. It can be pushed farther than that. But it was designed to be capable out to about 400 yards for the mass infantry soldiers' use. But you could swap, or you could flip your select fire AK over to full auto and use it as a submachine gun if you want to. The Russian ideology was your AK was to be used as a submachine gun unless you needed yourself a full power rifle to be able to touch out to further distances. Then you just kind of swap over to semi-automatic and you have yourself your capability of sending accurate fire out downrange. 7.62x39 is a little bit powerful and has quite a bit of recoil in terms of using it for full auto, especially at any real significant distance. Personally, even if I had full auto capabilities with 7.62x39, I would probably still just use my semi-automatic selection on my rifles unless I find myself in some real dire situations. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little bit of history of the 7.62x39. These right here are 123-ish grain projectiles, traveling at about 2,400 or so feet per second, approximately. I'm not quite positive on that one. But well, that thing is just falling down. It is a less powerful round than something like this right here. This is a 150 grain traveling at 3,000 feet per second. This right here is a smaller projectile, 123-ish grain, traveling at about 2,400 feet per second. So smaller bullet traveling slower, but it is still definitely effective enough to be able to handle most of the situations that were needing to be handled by your standard infantry. This right here was supposed to be the standard infantry rifle. And there's actually a lot of people out there who are still using 7.62x39. A lot of countries out there who are still using 7.62x39. Russia has kind of adopted, well, they've kind of moved on to the concept of a smaller, even more intermediate cartridge with the 5.45 cartridge. But that is a topic for another time. Not really something that I'll get into with this video because this is the history of the 7.62x39. Plenty of countries out there still using it. This cartridge has used, or has seen and done a tremendous amount in this world, just all over the world. So, yeah, lots of history behind this cartridge. So, thanks for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and go check that out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and if you ever find yourself in the trenches of World War I with an AK-47, and you happen to come across some 7.62x39, by all means let me know, because my God, would that change the foundation of what we know about the development of firearms technology. I will see you guys on the next video. Since I've done this.
Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.